Hi, guys. Welcome to the Wild Widow Woman podcast. In this week's episode, I'm interviewing Beth Montgomery. She is a death doula. I will put all of her information in the podcast description so you can go and check her out and, see what's up. Take a listen. Thanks for hanging out, y'all. Peace. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
I am super duper excited. I've told everybody I know that I'm having Beth the Death Doula on the podcast. I can hardly wait. And I'm sure it's very much like what you experience or have experienced in that what's a death doula? You know? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I want to cover. Um, and I have questions over here, so I'm going to begin.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Do you
So
do a recorded,
just
like a visual recorded
mhm.
on YouTube and then okay.
Yeah. So, just so that everybody's aware, we met on Yogi Brian's not podcast, Yogi Brian's platform on School, the Release Your F Society, the
Mhm.
Release Your Fuck Society. I'm an explicit podcast, so I guess we can go ahead and swear.
Oh,
Um,
fuck yeah.
that's good news, right? It's like, oh shit, I gotta hold that in. So we met through meditation, and I was quite intrigued by when you started your own platform on the school or on Classroom rather on the school platform to educate others and whatnot about death doula, and we talk about all things death, dying, and grief. And just real quick before we get into the nuts and bolts of everything that you do,
Mhm.
what's something about your work that most people don't expect?
Oh, so when someone says death doula, they immediately think of like bedside, like, oh,
Right,
they're sitting vigil, they're there
right,
for the person. What's surprising is that we're not just there for the person, we're there for the family. And from my experience, when I do sit bedside, the person who's dying is like already there. Like
right.
they're in a place that they're like accepting and, surrendering, and everybody seems to get to that place. 99.9% of everybody gets to that place. The thing that's really hard is I am leaving my people. And so a lot of what the work that I do, basically educating
Oh, okay.
the family, supporting the family.
So
Uh,
not to interrupt, how is it different than how is a death doula different than a traditional hospice or other traditional end of life care rather? I'm sorry.
yeah, well, we fill in the gaps
Okay.
for the most part. Like
Yeah.
hospice is only in there, the nurses are in there for an hour a week or two days a week or however many times that they're scheduled to be there. They are barred by the insurance policies, so they need to do notes and put in all the things and like go through all these things. So
Okay.
half the time you're seeing them look at a screen while they're with the patient. And then you have like the home health aides that come in that are along with hospice.
Mhm.
You have social workers, you have, the chaplain, and so and volunteers too. But
Right.
volunteers, you're only allotted 4 hours a week for a hospice. You know,
Oh,
minimum it's 1 hour a week, but 4 hours a month is what they like to see to get qualified for insurance purposes.
okay.
So from the standpoint of the family, yes, they are getting supported. However, a death doula can sit there for hours and hours and hours
Okay.
and just be with the person, do things that are like maybe out of the box, maybe do different things that hospice may not be able to do.
Mhm.
And we work in conjunction with them. We're not we're not like enemies or like
Right,
competition.
right. You work
We're
together.
all
It's
there to
collaborative,
support.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Um, so I've heard a little bit about your story. I mean, you kind of started swimming in in this ocean of death, dying, and grief at one point.
Yeah.
What initially drew you to your profession, though? I mean, obviously you had a different job, and now
Mhm.
you're doing this, and I see you as enjoying it. I mean, correct me if I'm
Oh,
wrong.
I
I see
love
you.
it.
It's a passion.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It's the most, it's like I finally know what I want to be when I grow up. And it's
Oh,
this,
what a
you
great
know,
thing to
at the
say.
age, at the tender age of 42, almost 43.
Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Love it.
But I didn't wake up and like I was terrified of death growing up. Like we didn't talk about it. It was like this big scary thing. My grandmother had died when I was 12, and I remember just in the middle of the night just waking up, cold sweats, even like at the age of 5, like just terrified of death.
Oh, wow.
And people that I knew dying. Like it was just such a scary thing for me.
Right.
And, I didn't grow up with a lot of death. And when my grandmother died when I was 12, it happened. We did the funeral, we swept it under the rug, and we don't talk about it ever again. We didn't even go visit her gravesite. We didn't like none of that. And, I really leaned into like I'm a lot woo-woo, I will tell you that.
Yes,
So
me
I
too.
got into like Ouija boards and talking to spirit more and like really leaning into that. And I remember saying, I talked to grandma today, and my dad flipped out on me and was like, she's dead. You do not ever talk about that ever again. And so I got a very clear message that I should not be talking about that or even be woo-woo, right?
Right, right. Yeah.
And so fast forward, you hear the ancillary deaths that happen, the disenfranchised grief that I experienced, maybe exes, maybe people that weren't in my direct sphere.
Right.
I didn't feel like I was close to that. But I had a partner after my first marriage. I got married again for about a year. And at the beginning of that marriage, my father-in-law at the time, got, oh gosh, he got diagnosed with esophageal cancer. And over that year of our marriage, I saw him decline, and we were there for his last day. And, witnessing and understanding what I didn't know what I was watching. It was
Right.
absolutely terrifying. I,
Sure.
the hospice nurse was there, and then she left, and she kept on saying, give him morphine. It's okay. And, they were trying, you can tell he was like moaning and he was groaning and he was just uncomfortable. And I was like, this doesn't seem right. Like something like give him more morphine or something. And they were like, no, that's going to kill him. And I was like, he's in pain.
Dying.
Yeah. Like he
Sorry.
needs, he needs this thing. So, I didn't know what I was watching. They told me, I'm so glad I was there because it was a beautiful send off for him. Like they were
Sure.
all surrounding him. We were all telling him that we loved him, that it's okay to go. Everything else was beautiful except for the fact that he was uncomfortable. And I had left to go drop off keys because they had a rental. Like the kids had a rental, so they were like, "Our rental people are there. We don't want to leave him during this time." And I was like, "I'll go, I'll go." And as soon as I
Right.
left, he died. But in the manner that he died was like really just jarring. So when I came back, I remember standing in between the kitchen and the living room where he was. And in the kitchen, all the kids were shell shocked. And in the living room, the hospice nurse was there with his wife, my mother-in-law,
Mhm.
and just I mean, there's no words that I could put to it. And so, I saw that and I didn't know where to go. And I was witnessing these two different worlds happening all at once. So from that moment on, I made it my mission to understand exactly what I had experienced so that no one else would experience that either. Because the shell shock and trauma that they experienced because of the manner that he died in, it could have been prevented. And then to be able to comfort and console and be next to the grieving wife, that was her life partner. And, just to see, there's no words that can express the amount of like heartache that I saw in her face and her eyes and her whole energy. I mean, for those of you who have lost a partner, my heart is just, that's just, there are no words. It's such a
No.
deep, deep loss. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I made it my mission to just investigate and learn and grow. And then I heard this term called death doula. And I was like, oh, that's really nice. I would maybe one day want to be that,
Hmm.
but didn't understand uh, the concept of it. I knew the idea of it, but I was like, I'm not worthy of that. I'm not there yet. I haven't experienced a lot of death.
Okay.
I don't know medical terminology, although like here in the back at the ranch,
At the
right? I'm
range.
like, I'm doing all this research and I'm
Right.
just one thing after another and following hospice nurses and just like really learning about what death is, the stages of dying, the whole process of grieving, the different types of grief. I mean, like
Wow. Yeah.
there's a whole world out there that we just don't talk about.
Oh
So
yeah.
um, I made an appointment because after I did a webinar with Suzanne O'Brien, who's the founder of Doula Givers International or Doula Givers, oh my gosh, Institute. Um, I got on a Zoom with her and I was like, I really want to do this, but I'm not sure that I'm the type of material for it. And she goes, You're the perfect type. She
Oh.
was a hospice nurse and she was like, people who aren't in hospice, exactly the right people to talk about it. Because when we're in hospice, our nurse brain kicks in, but since
Mm,
we're just more body and spiritual and feeling, you're
mm.
maybe able to help comfort and support that family. But take this, take my course and, and you can learn about the different things. When I took the course, I learned everything that I'd already investigated. So I felt like I was just a refresher. It was just nice to have the certificate after.
Well, and a good
Um,
confirmation too.
right,
Yeah.
right. And the other surprising fact is doula, death doulas do not have to have a certification.
Ooh.
It's like a tattoo artist. You just trust that the tattoo artist is a good artist
Right.
and that they
Right.
learned proper procedures and everything. And,
And that they're
I was like,
human
oh,
and all the
that's
things.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, it could be really expensive to go through a program like that. And then like the continuing education and all
Mhm.
of that stuff
Yeah.
is a lot to think about. But, so I made it my mission to at least start this conversation one
Yep.
time, just one conversation, and then it
Right.
turns into many. And now
Oh,
it's my mission is now like help get more death doulas out there because we need to talk about it more. This universal truth.
yeah. Everybody's gonna die.
Yeah.
Why are we? And we are. I don't mean to make light of it. Like, why are we so afraid of it? But we are afraid of dying. We're afraid of not knowing, how it's going to happen, who it's going to affect, and all those things.
Mhm.
Having experienced being a widow, it'll be 9 years this March, and then I lost my dad almost 3 years ago.
Mm.
My second dad. I had a couple, um, but losing them. I think it stays very surreal if we don't
Mm.
talk about it. I mean, it
Mhm.
stays in a place of how can this be if we don't talk about it? That's just been my experience. I mean, I literally days, weeks, months later, I'm waking up going, this just seems like I'm someone else's life. What is going on here? Because it was something, because again, we didn't talk about it. My mom's parents were gone when she was 9 and 10. I I heard like bits and pieces of that, but I didn't go to funerals growing up, and I certainly, I mean, it's a scary thing,
Mhm.
and I love the idea of taking the fear out of it and normalizing the idea that we're going to have where everybody's going to cross over. So
Yeah.
everybody's going to,
There was a
and
little stint where I would start my social media videos with, "You're gonna die someday." But you know.
I love that. Oh, okay then. Well, all right.
I think that was a little too strong. But like we don't want to gloss over the fact that death is scary because death is very scary.
Right.
You know.
Right. And I think that pretending that it's not is kind of where we get lost,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
we end up getting surprised, like, oh my gosh, this thing is actually happening. Not that we should make it the center of our focus, but if you think about it, our human nature is want to stay alive. It's wanting to be here.
Right.
Is in all the things that we do. We brush our teeth, which extends our life. We eat food, which extends our life. We drink 8 glasses of water every day, hopefully, knock on,
Yeah.
if
Well,
you're if
hopefully we do. Sometimes.
yeah. And all the things that we do on a daily basis is there to extend our lives.
Right.
And unless you're in this arena, it's not going to be front of mind. And that's okay.
Right.
I'm not on a mission to make this like every single day you should think about it, but like part of the tension that we feel about, death in itself is that we're not planning or that we're not sharing our heart or we're not doing something out of fear, out of not knowing. And
Mhm.
sometimes we just don't know what we don't know.
Well,
And what I found out is if I do a planning session with somebody, the amount of release and peace that just washes over their whole person, and especially in a family setting, because I
wow.
facilitate family groups, like, you know,
Mhm.
we talk about all the plans that you want, all your advanced care directives, your healthcare proxy. We plan out all your things. What's your funeral look like? How do you want to be remembered? All the things, right?
Right.
And then to have the family sit together and all talk and all have like the talking stick for a little bit and share their concerns and they're like, well, I don't want to lose you. Well, like I know, but we have to talk about it. And then to see how the family comes together closer afterwards.
Right.
It's like this bonding experience. And like we lose track of that, in our day
I
to
do have a
day.
question about a non-prepared death. How does a death doula, how would your role fit into someone's life on a like on an accidental death, a sudden kind of thing? I mean, my husband's demise was 16 days, start to finish. So,
Mm.
um, I mean, there was, some knowing in there, but it wasn't like someone called me and said he's gone. I mean, where is your role in a more sudden departure of a loved one?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, thank you for sharing that. That must have been just absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
I think loss with any person that we love and care
Yeah.
about deeply. I
Right.
mean, it
Right.
always feels like there's never enough time.
It's crazy. So but I was just gonna, I did silly thing. Well, I say silly. It's not really silly, but in my mind, I was so averse to the idea of him not coming home, of him dying. I mean, when I say averse, I mean like the thought would not, I wouldn't let the thought enter my mind. If it tried to knock on the door, I'd push it away. I went home and did laundry because my man was coming home,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he didn't, and do I wish I hadn't done his laundry? Kind of, because then I could still smell him. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, what are you gonna do? I mean, so where would your role be in a less planned situation? How would that look?
Yeah. So I'll tell you one story of my friend Connie.
Okay.
Okay. Connie, I got a phone call from Connie in the hospital,
Mhm.
and she had gone in just for some testing. She wasn't feeling well, and she was like, I don't know, like, I'm just not feeling well. So she
Right.
goes in for testing, and she finds out that she has advanced stage pancreatic cancer,
Oh,
and she's given weeks to live. So I went in to meet her on Monday. And I met her and I fell in love with her. She was a spark plug. She was
mm,
just an artist, creative,
yeah.
like just spoke her mind, wore her heart on her sleeve, and she was just amazing. Her friends would come in and, we would just sit there and share, and I would just sit there and hold her hand, right? And, and there would be some quiet times where, she was so popular. She had so many friends come in and she felt very supported and loved, and everyone was coming in and they were sharing their grief with her.
Yeah.
And, there's a moment in all of that sharing of grief that the person who's in the bed is like holding the grief for them. And there was a moment where there was a lull, and I said, Connie, you're grieving too. And it was like an understanding. Fast forward, I went to go see that woman every single day. She became my new best friend. I just loved her so much. And on Friday nights, I wasn't able to go see her because it was snowing and I was just wasn't able to get there. And she was like, "That's okay. I've got my friends over. We're eating crabs and all this stuff." And they were watching movies. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll see you on Saturday. We're going to have a news broadcaster come in, tell your story. You're going to have this like legacy thing.
Oh,
And
how
so we're
cool.
going to do this whole thing, right?
Oh,
This whole
cool.
legacy thing. I get a call first thing in the morning that Connie had died last night. And while she was watching a movie, that her friends were all watching the movie, having a good time, and she was laying down and she just in her own Connie style was like, "Deuces, I'm gone." And
Grace,
it was
y'all, let
very,
me
yeah,
out.
yeah. I mean, it was very, very sad. It was very, very sudden to go from on Monday getting the diagnosis, because that's when I met her, to
Mhm.
Friday being gone. I mean, it,
Oh,
it was a
five
week.
days.
It was only 5 days.
Holy
And
crap. You
and I
said
shared,
fast forward, and I'm thinking, oh, cool. She lived a few weeks. That's awesome.
no,
No.
no.
Wow.
I sat there with her for the hospice visit, the nurse taking in all the intake information, and I can tell that she was already seeing visions. Like she was already having she was like, I'm in two different worlds, Beth. Like I see you, but there's like this whole other world. So like I believe that there's a great beyond. And the fact
Right,
that she
right,
was she was there. And I tell that story because there's nothing that I can do or change what the people are feeling, what the person is feeling, what is experience, like what is happening, how much
right.
time we have with the person, the people, the moments. But what I can do is just simply hold space because not everybody is able to talk to their partners or their friends or their families because it's upsetting. It's a very raw nerve.
Right.
And what I end up doing is I'm this neutral third party who is comfortable with talking about death and dying,
Yeah.
who is comfortable with talking about grief, and I become this safe person just to share all these things with.
That's great.
And um and that's all we really need
Yeah.
at the end of life when we're dealing with grief. If we're on the living side of the world and we just experienced like losing our person, like how the fuck dare we lose our person? Who the fuck understands what I'm going through? Like
No
who can
fucking
I
body. I
yeah,
can say that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like who is going to understand? And my friends are probably tired of me talking about this, or they're saying the wrong shit, and like and so where I find myself mostly is in these conversations like we have in school. Like my hope for school is that we have more of these conversations. And my hope behind the paywall is that it's more of a safe conversation because when we leave it open and
Yeah.
vulnerable for people, like just anyone can come in and start talking about grief, like we can't have that.
Right.
So
Right.
this is meant for a community of people who really, really want to learn about death and dying, want to learn about grief, want to have community, want to be able to like have those
Right.
conversations because that is where the healing happens. And it's not just with me, it's with a community.
Right. I'm feeling kind of on topic, but kind of off, a separate topic as well. I am feeling or sensing rather kind of a global, if you will, push towards community. It seems like just my observation of people on this planet in general are feeling quite isolated, and um, there is a lot more community opportunity about than there has ever been, and I'm delighted for such, to be quite honest. I mean, truly delighted because it's such a comfort. I would that is was so hugely lacking in the widow community, is community. There's no one, no, and we've talked about this. People want to help but they don't know what to do, so they say, call me if you need anything, and all they've done is just shift the burden back to the griever.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? I can't, who, huh? So yeah, I appreciate the community aspect so much. And when you started that school platform, I was like, I'm in because that's where my heart is, as well as not necessarily having, being the facilitator of the death, dying, and grief conversations, but definitely being one of the people that can understand. Definitely being one of the people that you can bounce things off of, and it's not going to sound strange because I was there, you know. Um, and you kind of referred to the woo woo thing. I was going to ask you as well. What role, or I don't even know if it's role, if you will, does spirituality or lack thereof play in death work?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about, well, first of all, thank you for sharing your heart. I
Oh,
just appreciate the way that you're just so transparent and
thank
vulnerable.
you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Um, and so that's a really good question because death doulas in itself is a wide global thing.
Sure.
And so we can practice different things in
Hmm.
our practice. Like there are some death doulas that are more medical trained, like
Okay.
that are more medically brained, that are more in the physical realm.
Sure.
There are death doulas who work in the occult. There are death doulas who, are super into woo-woo, who do shamanic work, who
Yeah.
do like all those other things. I find myself in just like, I guess you could call me woo-woo, boho, kind of
Yeah.
earthy mama. That's the words
Yeah.
that have been told to me.
Yeah.
I, I have one foot firmly planted on this side of earth, and I have one foot firmly planted in spiritual realm. And what that can look like is, maybe I mean, I have a client right now who is super religious.
Sure.
God, Jesus, all the things.
Sure.
And, I just allow her to share, and she knows that I'm not a churchgoer, and that's okay. And the beautiful thing is like she educates me about her type of religion that
Oh,
she
that's cool.
she practices, and I'm like, oh, I get some more insight. And
Yeah.
there's this like beautiful understanding. But you'll find that death doulas will focus on different things.
Okay.
Some will focus on primarily legacy, some will focus
Okay.
primarily on Buddhism, some will focus on different things. And, circling back to Yogi Brian's community, I didn't realize he was a meditation teacher. So when I was able to get my meditation teacher certificate, like I do meditations,
Right. Right. Right.
in general, and
Right.
I share it with my clients and I share it with my friends. And to have framework around that was really, really important to me.
Oh, yeah.
So now I share it with these clients who are, there is anxiety when it comes to
Yep.
death.
That makes
And there is anxiety when it comes to watching your person die. It
right.
is not normal. This is not okay. This is not something that I was planning for. Like,
Uh-uh.
it's something distant in the future.
Yeah.
And to be able to meditate, to be able to offer Reiki, and I'm a Reiki 3 practitioner. And
Yeah.
so to teach other people how to be Reiki, level 1, without them even knowing it, even sometimes.
I would love
Because I'm
that.
like, you gotta put your hands on them. Like that's human touch is the one thing that just calms so much, not only for yourself, but for the other person.
Right.
And it's like, that's the community, that's the connection. I don't know if I answered your question. I feel like I just kind of chased the rabbit
Well,
wherever it went.
I everything you said is, I mean, perfect. I love it. And God, I really thank you for, diving so deep into it and giving me your heart on it. Um, I've watched several of your little skits on, they're short, they're sweet, they're concise, they're to the point, they're entertaining as hell. Um, and I think the ones that were the most intriguing for me were the ones where, um, you play the part of, the doula is managing the expectations around different religious and spiritual things being done when everybody knows this is not what Papa wanted, or that everybody knows that, that kind of thing. So it and what I got from that, just from watching, is that you become sort of a kind mediator of sorts,
Yeah.
but definitely a protector of your client. It just told me that I'm running out of time. We got 9 minutes. Anyway, I'm really, I love I love how all encompassing the work is that I've watched you kind of put out there for us to learn. And tell me what your Instagram handle is, just so that people can go and watch it.
Thank you. It's Death Doula Beth. You can
Just Death
find Death
Doula Beth.
Doula Beth all over. That's my
Okay,
website too.
cool.
And some of those skits are loosely based on real life experiences.
Sure.
So
I can
they are
only imagine.
dramatized for entertainment purposes. It's amazing how many people get like so up in arms about it. It's kind of
Mhm.
funny.
Yeah,
Um,
I would bet. I would
yeah,
bet.
yeah.
So why is it, just to kind of wrap it up, because we got about 7 or 8 minutes? Why, in a nutshell, is it so important to talk about death, dying, and grief while we're still healthy?
Because, and I say this all the time. The
Background.
the the better we live is the way we live is the way we die, right? So the more we talk about it now, the easier our death is going to be, not
Okay.
only for other people, but for ourselves. And
That's actually
having this,
very encouraging. I mean, that's not anything that I would have ever thought. The easier it's going to be for us and for everyone else if we talk about it now.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
fantastic.
if you think about the energy behind sitting with someone who you know explicitly this is what they want, this is how they want it to go out,
Right.
and this is how they want to be remembered,
Yeah.
versus someone that you're like, do I pull the plug? Do I not pull the plug?
Uh,
What do I do? And that's like, how do you even decide? That's an impossible decision. And to sit in that energy of planning and the like I may not agree with this, but this is what this person wanted, and I'm going to do that. It's honoring them, and it's very heart-centered focus rather than, oh, guilt and blame and shame. And that's where I hear a lot of conversations, and I don't want to see that anymore. Let's talk about that so you don't do that shit to your family when you go.
right. Right. Let's let's get that the bullshit out of the way and
Right,
reserve the death, dying, and grief so we can honor the life that was lived. That's
right.
just makes more sense. That's a beautiful answer. Thank you so much. I love that. That just I the way we live is the way we die, and making it easier for me and the people that I love later on. I'm on board because I don't want my children to have to experience what I did, you know. And I certainly, I mean, having lost two dads and my husband,
Mm,
hang on. Um, I want to have the conversations so that the tears they have don't have any regret in them. So that the tears they have are cleaning out and they're not, harboring anything that they wish they had done. That is my that is my ultimate in in what I would like for my children or my mom, if God forbid, if she's still alive when I pass, it would
yeah,
be my heart's desire that as painful as it could be for her to lose her only child, that she would know and have some peace because we'd had the hard conversations.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Thank you. Um, let's see. Let's wrap up. We got a couple minutes. Practical. Okay. What are and I'm gonna lighten it up just a tiny because otherwise, um, what are some really practical end of life planning tips that you would give to our listeners and watchers?
Mm. Just have the conversation, and if you don't know where to start, reach out.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect, perfect.
just
Um, and let's see if there's anything else.
and a lot of the videos that I do are
Mhm.
meant to spark the conversations about the different topics that I cover at the planning sessions that I do.
Oh, well, Lacey, that's perfect. That's
Yeah.
perfect. I love that. I totally love that. What's a piece of wisdom you've gained for yourself from this work?
Um, there's a lot.
Yeah,
You don't really truly live until you've been with someone who's dying.
I feel that.
There's a sense of deep gratitude that I have in my day to day that I just could not have gotten to had it not been for this work.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for doing it. Truly, truly.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Thank you for having me on
oh
your
my gosh,
podcast.
Beth, you have no idea what just you coming into my life has changed things so much. It truly has. And it's more than just you, obviously. It's a lot of it is Yogi, Brian, and all the other people that we connect with on his platform as well as on your in your classroom. Um, it has been fuel for my personal fire to do what I need to do and pushing me out the door, baby steps at a time, loving myself every moment of the way. But it's also given me and brought me just an immense amount of comfort in my grief. Just the one little grief lounge that we had, and I can't wait to introduce it to more people. I got, snuck my friend Kelly in and all. So what I want to leave our listeners, watchers with is, please reach out to to please go to, it's Death Doula Beth or Death Doula Beth. Okay.
That's Doula Beth.
DeathDoulaBeth.com. And, to please reach out, but also I mean, if, if this is important, which I think it is, but if it's important in an individual's life, take the time, come to the classroom that we have, and um, sit in on a grief lounge, because it was a very moving experience to get all the different perspectives, as well as just quite comforting to know I was being heard, uninterrupted, and not judged, no expectations. So
Yeah.
thank you for pouring your life into the death, dying, and grief.
Well, thank you for receiving me. And just side note, I think I'm going to do like a 7-day free trial for
Ooh,
anyone that signs up. So
okay.
you can get, and I plan
Okay.
on doing these grief cafes or grief
Okay.
lounges every
Okay.
week.
Every week.
So
Okay.
every
I
week.
do
And then
have,
there's a workshop.
actually, I do know several other people that I kind of wish had gotten in, and I didn't even think about it until it was too late, obviously, but that's okay. It is what it is,
That's
and
okay.
it is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Beth. I appreciate you
Thank
immensely.
you so much. Yeah.
It's been
And
really, really good for my heart, and good for me in general. I hope the same for you. Thank you for pouring out all that you know.
and thank you for doing this. Your work is very important.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I feel that. Blessings.
I'll see you in class.
See you in
Or
there.
I'll
See
see
you in
you in
class.
school. I'll see you in
Bye.
school.
Peace.